we can tape pre. We talked about doing that, right?
Yeah, we're
Putting
live.
pregame. Yeah, I know. But we talked about doing pregame in the can for that game.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
What's going on, everybody? We're just working out logistics. See, they thought broadcasting was not a logistics major. It is a logistics major.
We were just trying to show everybody what this takes.
Yeah, we're all over the place. We're back in an unfamiliar place in a lot of ways. I feel like I haven't been here in so long.
It's been, what, 2 weeks, 2.5? But it feels like 2 months.
But that was also wrapping up that long homestand, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was.
I felt like I lived here, and then I felt like I got kicked out.
It's funny. I remember Torch saying we've been home too long.
Yeah, then
today we've been on the road too long.
Yeah. But he's not wrong.
He's not wrong about either count.
Yeah.
You know, this 2 home, 2 road, that's a good little thing. They're going to settle into that here in January a little bit.
Yeah.
2 home, 2 road, 1 home, 1 road, and then we got the I used some not very nice words to describe the trip coming up in February, where they've got Seattle, Calgary, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, and Edmonton same trip.
Oh man.
So yeah.
Well, 9 of their last 11 games have been on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a typical December for this team.
Yeah, I mean, go back. It was Vegas, Arizona, Colorado, New Jersey on the road. Came back home, had the Rangers and Columbus at home.
Yep.
And then went on the road to Toronto and Carolina before Christmas. And then after, you had San Jose, Los Angeles, and Anaheim.
Right.
So it's been 9 of 11 games that they've been on the road. My wife was like, "You got to get out of here. Don't you have a game to go to?"
And not only that, but you know that trip, the Anaheim game finished up that 21-40 or whatever it was, schedule wise. 21 games and 40 nights.
Oh yeah.
So now it's actually back to a human schedule. The Flyers are actually going to have 2 days off in between, like 3 consecutive games until that Buffalo game got moved to Monday.
Yeah.
But
now it's 3 and 4.
Yeah, but even with that, it's still not a horrible schedule.
Yeah.
Even though the 3 and 4 is not ideal.
I guess it's 3 and 5 because tonight, Sunday, and then Monday against Buffalo.
Yep.
But then that becomes a 9. So you got Monday, Wednesday, Saturday next week. So yeah, it's a bit of a much more normal.
Yeah.
There you go. Double fisting already.
All right.
She's always double fisting. He's always got her going. That's
At least
great.
one of those was water, I think.
Yeah, Chaser.
Yeah.
But she's always, they come to every game. I see them before every game here.
Okay.
Yep. She's always walked by and her husband and season ticket holders. But tonight it's Arizona again. And, we saw Arizona back on the 11th. Flyers lost that game in overtime, 5-4, if you recall.
Yes.
But tonight is
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tonight is Shane Gostisbehere. I think it's his 500th game. Am I correct about that? I thought he played more than that.
I'll tell you.
I thought I saw that somewhere. I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah, we'll see which one of us gets it first.
Yeah, it is $4.99.
It's about in the wheelhouse. Yeah.
$381 for the Flyers, $118 for Arizona now in his second year there. I feel like he's played way more than 500 games.
You know what? It's that 2 years with COVID. The
equals one season.
The season that got cut off and then the shortened season the next year. It just seems to have completely warped space-time as far as I'm concerned.
He played 42 and then 41.
Yeah, I can't figure out how long anybody's been in the league. I can't figure out how old anybody is. It's just it's crazy. I mean, can you believe that Shane Gostisbehere in a few months is going to be 30 years old?
Yeah, that's nuts.
I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
I was looking at the stat the other day, trying to figure out, the Flyers young forwards, how they did, noticing in the process of that Scott Lawton's 28.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems a lot more feasible to me than Ghost being 30 almost. But it's weird to try to comprehend all this right now.
Yeah. Well, he played 42 games in the 1920 season. Remember, he was hurt for some of that season. And then 41 the next year, which was a shortened season anyway, in 2021 after the pandemic hit. So that's basically one full season, 83 games over those 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he played 82 last year. So he's been a healthy player and played 36 so far this year. 26 points. He's got 9 goals, 17. I know a lot of people on social media lamenting, the numbers that Ghost has pulled up or put up this year. But when you look at it, it's funny because I think in 4 less games, Tony DeAngelo's got 4 less points.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's not anything that's, for me, driven by logic. It's not like, you're looking at this and being like, I told you so. I mean, there was definitely a component of Shane Gostisbehere's game here that I don't know if evolve is the word, but he had that one huge year in 17-18, and then the next year he came out and admittedly he wasn't fully healthy, but
he had the core issue.
Yeah, he had the core issue, and he also had knee issues somewhere in there.
Yep.
And given that, at the same time, it seemed like folks had picked up on what he was putting down, and they were shutting down his moves at the blue line and things like that. And I mean, I remember when he came up, I thought he was going to be the guy that broke all of our power play records. And I was thinking we were thinking Mark Howe, and it didn't pan out that way. We're glad that he's gone to Arizona and had a resurgence. I mean, yeah, you don't want to see anybody do bad. You don't want to wish bad on anybody. I think it was just a matter of a change of scenery revitalized him. But I think when things like this happen, it's not necessarily something that was going to happen in Philadelphia. Sometimes you need that change of scenery to get going. We've seen players come through here like Pat Maroon, everything he's done, in his career. A lot of that was started by him getting sent home from the Adirondack Phantoms, and it changes your outlook on things, So
kind of like Chris Carter in the NFL when Buddy Ryan cut him.
Yep.
Chris Carter said that saved his life.
Absolutely. I think it happened to a lesser extent with Jeff Carter here. As you recall.
He had some good years here, though.
Yeah, he did have some great years here.
Yeah.
And then, when he got, things started to go off the rails a little bit, I think more off ice than on ice. But when he got traded to Columbus, that brought him down a peg. And, that the rest is history for him, obviously.
Not a big enough peg to make him not complain enough to get out of there and get to L.A. with Richie.
Well, yes.
Because he ended up there a month later.
There is a little bit of an element to that as well.
Yes. Everybody thought maybe you need to separate him and Richards. And then he ends up in L.A. with Richards and wins 2 cups.
Just needed to put him in L.A., I guess.
Yeah,
right?
I put him on Malibu Beach. Good living out there. But, Ghost is now in the final year of that contract as well at 30. So, the interesting thing is a lot of people go, well, you had to pay it. You had to send a sweetener to get rid of him. And I talked about this on Flyers Daily. The fact of the matter is that they waived him. Nobody claimed him. They put him on the market for basically nothing. Nobody traded for him.
Yeah.
And, you look at it and you go, a team that's trying to get to the floor, Arizona, always grabbing players like that. And they'll take a player like Ghost because his $4.5 million cap, it was $1.25 million less than actual money for each year of that deal.
Right.
So that's a great situation. We get the cap hit, which they need to get to the floor,
yep.
But we don't have to pay the full freight because the real money owed is $1.25 million cheaper.
Right.
So that's a great situation for them.
Yep. They absolutely look at something like that, and it's like they don't have any money to pay players. They have to pay them a certain amount according to the salary cap. But if they don't have to actually pay the cash out, I mean that's obviously even a better deal.
Yeah, and the things would go like, I mean, you mentioned that his first full season when he comes in. Remember, he plays 2 games in the 14-15 season, but then in the 15-16 season, he hit this streak of just being magical. The overtime winners and coast to coast and huge goals. And he had 5 game-winning goals that season. And he was overtime magic. And it was electric. And he had that year with 65 points from the blue line is no joke. That was an amazing year. 52 assists and 13 goals. The problem is that when his offense dried up, league adjusted to him a little bit, I think, that without putting up massive offensive numbers, he's a net negative player.
Right.
Because of the defensive deficiencies. And I'm sure some people are tweeting me now going, he wasn't that bad defensively, but he was bad defensively.
Yeah. And again, it was a different time, too.
I always ask goalies, Brian.
Yeah, true.
You want to know how a guy is defensively? Ask a goalie. It's not just about defensemen.
Yeah.
But they go, oh, no, that guy's on the ice. That's when you know. Because a goalie, you can't hide from the goalie.
Right.
The goalie knows, oh, no, he's going to throw it into a bad spot. Or, he's not going to win that board back. Or, oh, no, he's not going to do it. So I always kind of take my cues from.
Yeah. This the overall situation, again, was just, a place where I guess for whatever reason, it wasn't working out. And remember, it was a different world then. That goes obviously well back into the Dave Haxtell years, and then the Flyers were, again, still, when he arrived, basically still trying to find a replacement for Chris Pronger. And then, once they did, I think he would have settled in well on a defense that was led by Matt Niskanen through normal times for 2 or 3 years. But then, COVID hit and Niskanen decided to retire, and now it's like, all right, well, what do you do now? So, you have to try to revamp things as well as you can, and the best option to revamping them was to move them and use that money on somebody else. So yeah, it's just weird the way things operate over time in terms of how the landscape changes, even how the economy changes. I mean, again, today you would probably maybe not need to give up that much to move him as you did at that particular point, but that was it's very
Currency.
very big time of uncertainty in the league. Nobody knew how cap things were going to move and stuff like that. And the Flyers, they had again, that basically the group that was drafted near him a couple of years after, guys are starting to come along and they needed to be paid. So they were going to have to clear some stuff down the road. So just a weird situation overall. But again, it's good to see him doing well in Arizona, even though they're not winning any more than the Flyers are. But I'm sure it's a
little bit less
comfortable fit for him.
I mean, that's the irony, though. It's his 500th game and it's here.
Yeah.
How does that work out?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
That's the hockey gods for you, right?
It's so bizarre. Like, you get this monumental game, and 500 is a big number.
Yeah.
And it ends up being here, of all places. Like, that's bananas to me. I don't know. Things I think about when I lay awake. Like.
And it took how much shuffling did it take for it to land here? I mean, you never know when teams are going to be moving games left and right now because of various things. We've had snow reschedulings this year, but if those shortened seasons aren't exactly as short as they are, it doesn't land here. So it's weird.
Arizona's played 36 games. He's played in all of them, so he targeted it. They got 31 points. They're actually not in the bottom spot in the Central Division of the Western Conference. That would be Chicago's honor, who they are 11 points ahead of. Boy, does Chicago stink out loud.
I was talking to somebody about this today, and it's like, we haven't seen Chicago yet, so
we do soon coming up.
We do soon, but I mean, that Anaheim team was bad.
But they have some players.
They have some players.
Ziegler, they got
so
some guys.
I'm cautiously looking for. It's like looking at a car wreck. I'm waiting to see what we're going to see out of Chicago here, because they're 20 points worse than, or 10 points worse than Anaheim was.
Yeah. Think about this, Brian. Chicago or Anaheim, that Anaheim team you saw, has 6 more points than Chicago. And Anaheim, in 39 games, I think still only has 3 regulation wins. How sickening is that?
I mean, you saw on the telecast, probably the same thing
4
I
now.
did the
Sorry,
other night.
4.
You saw Dallas Eakins a few times look like he wanted to take a long walk off a short pier.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just see how this year is wearing on him just in that one game.
Oh, man, he looked young when the year started. He's going to look really old by the time it's over.
I mean, you remember when he went into Edmonton and took away all the donuts and put like celery and stuff out in the writers' room? He's going to be forced to donuts soon.
Yeah,
just to cope.
You do that in our writers' room, in our press dining room here, you're going to have a fight on your hands.
We never gave him donuts anyway.
Yeah. I'm going to start. So Flyers in Arizona tonight. Shane Gostisbehere's 500th game in the NHL. So Sam Harrison's still here. He's not starting tonight. Carter Hart's been activated from IR, and Carter gets the start. Hart with the start. So that's good.
And Barry Hanrahan working more magic. He used a wrinkle that I had not thought of.
The old conditioning assignment?
Yep. And it's apparently
for a guy that had the sniffles?
Apparently it's going to be 2 weeks.
What?
I don't know if it's because of their schedule or whatever, but apparently and this is what we were hearing from Torch today.
We got to get Barry kind of award.
Yeah, I mean, he gets down there now on 2-week conditioning loan while they figure out what to do. That's not a bad situation.
Barry was like the first one in the NHL to figure out the LTIR thing. With Mike Rathje.
Oh, God.
Way back when. And
you want to talk about paperweight?
Yeah. And, that's a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
Barry's unbelievable.
And again, obviously they closed those loopholes since then. But I was with the Phantoms back then. And one year it was Peter Nedved that they buried down there. And then the next year it was Denny Gauthier.
Oh, man, I remember Denny
They
Gauthier.
buried down there. I still remember Peter Nedved pushing his own gear in a laundry basket down the hall at Voorhees, going like, this is real right now?
That's where I'm going. I was a number 1 overall pick.
And I'll give both those guys credit for as long as I'm around. They went down there and they were excellent teammates. Absolutely tremendous to have in the room down there in that situation. But now you can't bear that kind of salary in the minors anymore. You're limited to $950,000 or something like that. And, if it's any more than that, it still counts against cap. So they did close that loophole a bit. But
Nedved was actually the 2nd overall.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Owen Nolan was the number 1 in 19.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
But, it was great having those guys down there. It certainly was helpful to the guys that were there. The Phantoms weren't all that great in those years. That was the stretch the Flyers went through in the late 2000s where they didn't have any draft picks. You go to the draft and they wouldn't pick till like round 3. Remember John Kalinsky being one of the first overall picks for the Flyers in a given draft. He came in the 3rd round. Guys like that. So it was a lean time then. Those guys went down there and were really, really good pros about it.
No doubt about it. So Hart gets the start tonight.
Yep.
Good to see him back. Erson's still here, so he can still see some more playing time. You do a back-to-back coming up on Sunday, Monday. Sunday here. I can't hear Pat. Can you put Pat in my ears? Pat's talking to me now, and I got you now, Pat. There he is.
Hear you.
Is Pat going over our stream?
He should not be.
Okay,
That's
a good thing.
If he is, that's a feat.
No, there are people listening, Pat.
I'll go 45 seconds. What the heck?
You said 52. It's 50. All right. Well, I need a mathematician back at the station.
He's not going over the stream, so we're good.
I don't know what to tell you. I need a give me the time, and he's like, you got bad math. I'll tell you, Egan. Vito, get in the car and go back to the station. Pat needs to be relieved.
It's a good thing Jaws isn't doing this show.
Yeah. Pat said you'll get your first shift. You got to earn your second.
Do we have to rip our hearts out of our chest this pregame show?
I'm at the rink the other night before the holiday. We get off the ice for my kids' practice, and I'm in the locker room getting undressed. And I see at the doorway, I just hear this, I'm not ready for you. And I look up, and there's Egan.
Oh, no.
Getting ready for a beer league game. I was like, oh, geez.
You didn't have to look up very far, right?
No, I didn't. That's a good point. That's a good short dig. Oh, man. Boy, does Ovechkin got a lot more salt in that hair than he does pepper these days.
The pepper is leaving, is it not?
Holy cow.
He passed
looks like Santa almost.
Passed Mark Howe, of course, a couple weeks, or Mark Howe, God. Gordie Howe a couple weeks ago.
How much time? Oh, here we go.
10 seconds, it sounds like.
All right. It's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith, East Food Hall at Wells Fargo Center, a place we've only been 2 times in the last 11 games, but we're here tonight as it's Shane Gostisbehere's 500th game in the NHL. Not here tonight as a member of the Philadelphia Flyers, of course. It's his 119th game as an Arizona Coyotes player, but he's playing against his former team tonight. And I imagine he'll get maybe a little Jumbotron mention for that, Bri. Is that worthy?
I would imagine it is, yeah.
Tribute video again? Should we give that?
I certainly hope somebody's picked up on that. I hope it wasn't my job to tell somebody about that. But, yeah, it's a big number, you know. It's a it's a number that not a lot of people reach in the NHL these days because you've got these, you know, this overall situation where the top end guys make a lot of money, and then
the young end makes a lot of money early too.
The young end is getting a lot of money. The guys in the middle get squeezed out, so you end up with a lot of guys being cycled out a little bit earlier than perhaps they were 10, 20 years ago.
It's the middle class, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's great for him, and you know, we're glad to see him doing well overall in Arizona. Just hopefully not tonight.
Yeah, so the Flyers will look to win 4 straight tonight. That's something they have not done this entire season. Matter of fact, they've only won 3 straight twice. The first time, Bri, was opening night on October 13th, and then 2 games that followed.
Remember it well?
Yeah, it was against New Jersey. I'm going to do this off the top of my head. I don't know how I have this in front of me. New Jersey, Vancouver, Tampa on the road.
Yeah.
And then the 3 they've won straight this time are San Jose in overtime, the LA Kings, and the Anaheim Ducks. Am I right?
That is right.
When I'm right, I'm right.
Pretty sure that's right. I remember
Pretty
that.
good.
Tampa
I'm
Bay,
on my game. I just earned my second shift according to that.
The Tampa Bay game was like, what? When that happened?
Yeah, that was the game that Noah Cates scored, if I remember, the game winner.
Yep. So,
man, I am on my stick tonight.
And it was part of the Vancouver meltdown, which I assume has cooled off a little bit back there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's obviously been a rough year from the get-go for that. And it was, again, even though the Flyers won those first 3 games and 7 of their first 15, actually 13, I think, they were giving up 40 shots a game, 70 attempts a game. It's hard to average 70 attempts against per game, but that's what they did over the first 13 games. And then once they fixed it, they started losing. Yeah. So I just it's defied logic, but that's why this is a year where you don't try to get too wrapped up in wins and losses. This is about progression as a team, individuals joining in as a group, and buying into what's going on. And we're starting to see that these last 3 games. 8 players on this roster, 25 and under as far as skaters go. 19 points for that group.
Wow.
And the only one that did not get a point in that time frame was Wade Allison. And he's still kind of getting his legs back under him, I think, a little bit after that injury. So it's good to see. And, again, we just want to see these pieces start to incrementally kind of pick up here. And, hopefully it's all going to start coming together here toward the end of the year.
One of the things that I love is when we talk about something pregame, and then we hear towards postgame and kind of mention it now. Pregame against Anaheim, you and I were talking about, this is one of those spots where you can start to feel a little full of yourself, inferior opponent, and, successful road trip already. Torts said he guarded against that before that Anaheim game. Tonight pregame, when we met with him earlier, I asked him about that same kind of notion going into this game. First game back from a trip, didn't have practice yesterday. And it's something that certainly he's going to guard against. And I won't use the term that I used, but I said, do you kind of do something to get them a little bit more riled up before this game, going a little heavy with the speech? And he said they plan to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to toot our horns, but that's happened more often than not this year, I feel like. But, it's definitely a situation right now where I think this team is going to move into kind of a new phase of things here as they start the home slate here in this 2023. They're going to be coming out trying to tie more stuff together. Now they've got the offense going a little bit. The penalty kill has been doing okay overall. Power play is still in the tank. So maybe that's the next thing to go. And they were working on that practice today. They are going to start having a little more practice time here in the month of January. And so, that's the hope here is that you start to see some of these other things come together. We are also now less than 2 months from the trade deadline. So, we're going to start to see
you
how
mean
this
your
roster's
position
gonna
of
come
clarity?
Through. It's coming quick. And I don't know. Does one of these 2 goalies move on? Sandstrom or Ersson? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I guess it's a matter of what they want to do. But it's going to be a couple of months here now where the Flyers finally, kind of set themselves up and establish themselves for the off season and the years to come. And, it's going to be hopefully a continued trajectory upward that we've seen here in the last 3-4 weeks.
One of the other things we talked to Torts about, I asked him about, he's gone 4 games in a row now with his lines intact up front. And I said, that's a long time for those guys. It's a result element. And I go, is that because, that's a long time for me, period.
Yeah.
Not change lines. He's a guy that will change them very quickly.
And I think you have to in this day and age. And
I do too.
You've seen
keep it fresh.
We've seen it happen here, well before the pandemic, but on the power play, Flyers power play to me looked exactly the same for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I can tell what they're going to do, I don't think they have a chance against some of the PKs in this league. You just, everybody's got video of everything now, and it's more available than it ever has been. And so you've got to keep your attacks as unpredictable, I think, as you can. Again, this is an unpredictable game. This is the least predictable of any of the 4 major sports in terms of set plays and stuff like that. Most of what you derive in terms of systems is just to get the first shot off, and then after that, everything else is a crapshoot. But you've got to find a way to be difficult to play against, just in the standpoint of things that the opponent can't plan for, and that's one thing I think the Flyers have been good at this year.
No doubt about it. Let's give people the lines real quick, and like I said, the forward lines are exactly the same. Frost, Van Riemsdyk, Tippett, Cates, Farabee, Konechny, Lawton, Hayes, Allison, Brown, Delarier, McEwen. Your D pairs. There is a change here because York moves up to play with Provorov. As Nick Seeler comes in for Justin Braun. He'll play alongside Rasmus Ristolainen, Travis Sanheim, and Tony DeAngelo. A pairing, and like we said before, Carter Hart gets the start tonight. One of those ones to focus on will be York on that right side, along with Ivan Provorov tonight for sure.
Yeah, you're going to continue to see, I think, this kind of moving Cam York around. Let's figure out where he's most comfortable, where he's most effective, and then you're going to want to build around him. You've got a couple of pieces right there that you can't move probably, and Provorov and Sanheim, and to a lesser extent Ristolainen and DeAngelo. So figure out where York's going to fit in here, and then you go the rest of your D from that point.
No question about it. All right, we've got 90s night at Wells Fargo Center. I loved the 90s. Love the 90s. It's grunge night as they'll celebrate the Flyer teams from the 90s. And we've got Flyers and Coyotes. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates on site, ready for the countdown to face off, followed by all the first period action. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway on the Flyers Broadcast Network.